Random House Audio presents The Affair by Lee Child, read for you by Dick Hill. Dedicated to the memory of David Thompson, 1971 to 2010, a fine bookseller and a good friend. Chapter 1. The Pentagon is the world's largest office building, 6.5 million square feet, 30,000 people, more than 17 miles of corridors, but it was built with just 3 street doors, each one of them opening into a guarded pedestrian lobby. I chose the southeast option, the main concourse entrance, the one nearest the metro and the bus station, because it was the busiest and the most popular with civilian workers, and I wanted plenty of civilian workers around, preferably a whole long, unending stream of them, for insurance purposes, mostly against getting shot on sight. Arrests go bad all the time, sometimes accidentally, sometimes on purpose, so I wanted witnesses. I wanted independent eyeballs on me, at least at the beginning. I remember the date, of course. It was Tuesday, the 11th of March, 1997, and it was the last day I walked into that place as a legal employee of the people who built it. A long time ago. The 11th of March, 1997 was also, by chance, exactly 4.5 years before the world changed, on that other future Tuesday. And so, like a lot of things in the old days, the security at the main concourse entrance was serious, without being hysterical. Not that I invited hysteria, not from a distance. I was wearing my Class A uniform, all of it clean, pressed, polished, and spit-shined, all of it covered with 13 years' worth of medal ribbons, badges, insignia, and citations. I was 36 years old, standing tall and walking ramrod straight, a totally squared-away U.S. Army military police major in every respect, except that my hair was too long, and I hadn't shaved for 5 days. Back then, Pentagon security was run by the Defense Protective Service, and from 40 yards I saw 10 of their guys in the lobby, which I thought was far too many, which made me wonder whether they were all theirs or whether some of them were actually ours, working undercover, waiting for me. Most of our skilled work is done by warrant officers, and they do a lot of it by pretending to be someone else. They impersonate colonels and generals and enlisted men and anyone else they need to, and they're good at it. All in a day's work for them to throw on DPS uniforms and wait for their target. From 30 yards, I didn't recognize any of them, but then the Army is a very big institution, and they would have chosen men I had never met before. I walked on, part of a broad wash of people heading across the concourse to the doors, some men and women in uniform, either Class A's like my own or the old woodland pattern BDUs we had back then, and some men and women obviously military, but out of uniform, in suits or work clothes, and some obvious civilians, some of each category carrying bags or briefcases or packages, all of each category slowing and sidestepping and shuffling as the broad wash of people narrowed to a tight arrowhead, and then narrowed further still to lonely single file or collegial 2x2 as folks got ready to stream inside. I lined up with them, on my own, single file, behind a woman with pale, unworn hands, and ahead of a guy in a suit that had gone shiny at the elbows. Civilians. Both of them, desk workers, probably analysts of some kind, which was exactly what I wanted. Independent eyeballs. It was close to noon. There was sun in the sky, and the March air had a little warmth in it. Spring in Virginia. Across the river, the cherry trees were about to wake up. The famous blossom was about to break out. All over the innocent nation, airline tickets and SLR cameras lay on whole tables, ready for sightseeing trips to the capital. I waited in line. Way ahead of me, the DPS guys were doing what security guys do. 4 of them were occupied with specific tasks, 2 manning an inquiry counter, and 2 checking official badge holders and then waving them through an open turnstile. 2 were standing directly behind the glass inside the doors, looking out, heads high, eyes front, scanning the approaching crowd. 4 were hanging back in the shadows behind the turnstiles, just clumped together, shooting the shit. All 10 were armed. It was the 4 behind the turnstiles that worried me. No question that back in 1997, the Department of Defense was seriously puffed up and overmanned in relation to the threats we faced then. But even so, it was unusual to see 4 on-duty guys with absolutely nothing to do. Most commands at least made their surplus personnel look busy, but these 4 had no obvious role. I stretched up tall and peered ahead and tried to get a look at their shoes. You can learn a lot from shoes. Undercover disguises often don't get that far, especially in a uniformed environment. The DPS was basically a beat cop role, so to the extent that a choice was available, DPS guys would go for cop shoes. Big, comfortable things appropriate for walking and standing all day. Undercover MP warrant officers might use their own shoes, which would be subtly different. But I couldn't see their shoes. It was too dark inside and too far away. The line shuffled along at a decent pre-9/11 clip. No sullen impatience, no frustration, no fear, just old-style routine. The woman in front of me was wearing perfume. I could smell it coming off the nape of her neck. I liked it. The 2 guys behind the glass noticed me about 10 yards out. Their gaze moved off the woman and onto me. It rested on me a beat longer than it needed to, and then it moved on to the guy behind. Then it came back. Both men looked me over quite openly, up and down, side to side, 4 or 5 seconds. And then I shuffled forward, and their attention moved behind me again. They didn't say anything to each other, didn't say anything to anyone else either. No warnings, no alerts. 2 possible interpretations. 1, best case, I was just a guy they hadn't seen before. Or maybe I stood out because I was bigger and taller than anyone within 100 yards. Or because I was wearing a major's gold oak leaves and ribbons for some heavy-duty medals, including a silver star, like a real poster boy. But because of the hair and the beard, I also looked like a real caveman, which visual dissonance might have been enough reason for the long second glance, just purely out of interest. Sentry duty can be boring, and unusual sights are always welcome. Or 2, worst case, they were merely confirming to themselves that some expected event had indeed happened, and that all was going according to plan. Like they had prepared and studied photographs and were saying to themselves, okay, he's here, right on time. So now we just wait 2 more minutes until he steps inside, and then we take him down. Because I was expected, and I was right on time. I had a 12 o'clock appointment and matters to discuss with a particular colonel in a 3rd-floor office in the C Ring, and I was certain I would never get there. To walk head-on into a hard arrest was a pretty blunt tactic, but sometimes, if you want to know for sure whether the stove is hot, the only way to find out is to touch it. The guy ahead of the woman ahead of me stepped inside the doors and held up a badge that was attached to his neck by a lanyard. He was waved onward. The woman in front of me moved and then stopped short, because right at that moment the 2 DPS watchers chose to come out from behind the glass. The woman paused in place and let them squeeze out in front of her, against the pressing flow. Then she resumed her progress and stepped inside, and the 2 guys stopped and stood exactly where she had been, 3 feet in front of me, but facing in the opposite direction, toward me.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?